Hi everyone, my name is Denise. I am an environmental educator here at the Edinburgh Scenic Wetlands and World Birding Center, and welcome to another Eye on the Wild. So for Eye on the Wild, what we're going to talk about today is nature's hidden world. And what I mean by that is, well, it's winter right now, so the animals that we usually see out and about, we don't really see them as often. And the reason why is because they're doing the same thing that we do during winter, is where we keep safe and warm, and that's what animals are doing too. They're taking shelter, and so they're not really hiding from us, but it can feel like that. So that's why we don't really see them as often. In fact, up north, where the winters are really cold and harsh, animals do this really cool thing called hibernation. So when animals hibernate, it basically means that they stay in one shelter and they stay there the entire time of the cold, harsh northern winters. And how they hibernate is basically that they consume a bunch of food before hibernation, and then they'll stay in their specific shelter, and they'll move as little as possible. And the reason why is because they're conserving energy so that they don't have to go out and search for food in the cold, harsh winters. But we live in the Rio Grande Valley, and we don't have cold, harsh winters like up north, so none of our animals actually hibernate. And that's a good thing, because that means that we can have a better way of finding them. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some really cool, interesting ways to find some animals that you may not find typically during winter. And I'm just going to show you some little techniques, and the ones that we're going to be looking for are actually insects. So the first little technique I'm going to show you is this one right here. And this is what we call a flower pot trap. Now, it's not really a trap because we're not keeping any of the insects, but it's basically we're making a little makeshift home for them. So you don't have to use a flower pot. You can actually use a cup or a small bowl, anything that you basically feel comfortable getting dirty. And I set this out a couple of days before, and I put it in basically a bushy area where I know there's going to be critters going around on the ground. And then I covered it a little bit with dirt, and I put a little bit of dirt inside the flower pot just to kind of just make the insects think that they're still going in the natural ground. So let's go ahead and see if we see anything inside our flower pot. Okay, I'm going to take a quick look. And no, I don't see any insects or any other little critters, but that's completely okay, because the reason why is that nature lives on their very own schedule. They don't live with our schedule. So if we don't see them in our traps that I'm going to show you today, that's completely okay, because the good thing about these is that you can keep them out for as long as you want, and you can check on them every day to see if you do see any insects. Okay? Alrighty, so the next one I'm going to show you is one that you actually don't have to set out yourself. This is something that you can do on your this is something you can do basically when you're walking on a nature walk, in a park, or what's it called, in your very own backyard. And basically, if you see a log or a rock that you think that's been there for a very long time, you can go ahead and turn it over and see if there's any critters that made a home in there for the winter. But okay, so we're gonna turn this over, and I'm a little worried about what's gonna pop out, but let's go ahead and see. This is why it's so interesting. And ooh, I do see little critters running around. Now, what I mainly see is a roach. I see one that's trying to scurry away, and I think that's the only thing I actually saw, but that's okay, because there's a bunch of other little logs all over the the Rio Grande Valley. So when you go on your very own nature walk or in your backyard, you can go ahead and turn as many logs over as you want, or you can also place a log or a rock in a really cool spot that you want to place, and then after a week or so, go ahead and turn it over and see if you can see anything really cool. Okay. Alrighty. And then the last one I'm going to show you is something that is really easy to do also. And again, you can basically do this anywhere. And what's it called? What you're going to do is you're going to place a piece of paper that's preferably white, because that's going to be the easiest thing to see, whatever falls on top of it. Or you can even use like an old pillowcase or an old t-shirt, anything that's basically light colored, and again, you don't mind getting dirty. So you're going to put it underneath a tree or a branch, and you're going to shake it, okay? And I'm trying to shake this as much as I can. Let's see. So I see things falling on it, but again, I don't see any insects. But that's completely okay. I do want to show you guys some stuff that I did find when I was going on an earlier nature walk, and I, turned over some rocks. Oh, I actually do see some ants on this tree, if you guys want to take a cool look. So they didn't get shaken off, but they are on this tree. All right, so as you guys can see, there is still life going on around in nature, but it's going to be mainly in places, that isn't really in plain view for us. But I did find some other little critters when I was turning over some rocks on a nature walk. And so the little guys that I found were roly-polies. So roly-polies are really interesting, well, they're not insects, but they're really interesting because one thing that they do to protect themselves is that they turn into a little ball. And roly-polies are amazing because they're decomposers and they are completely harmless. They don't bite, they don't sting. They're just basically really good for our environment, and they're completely safe to pick up. Alrighty, and also I found a snail underneath one of the rocks. But so how we end each of our Eye in the Wild is basically we give you guys a challenge, and the challenge I'm going to give for you is to do one of these insect traps so that you can see what you can find out in nature, or you can do your very own, because there's a lot of interesting insect traps out there online. And go ahead and explore and try to find whatever you can see. And remember, boys and girls, whenever you're doing this, keep your eye on the wild.